I think I've just left one cult for another. I've been on a journey to live a more digitally minimalistic life since September of 2023. Now, this journey has taken me on some strange side quest, we can say. I've switched out a lot of devices, for example, my Apple Watch for a Casio, so that way I'm less connected to my devices. But finally, in May of 2024, I've decided to leave the Apple ecosystem completely. And here's why. Firstly, when I decided to leave completely, I had to do it in a gradual process. Once you're deep in the Apple ecosystem, it's a little bit hard to leave. Apple's great. Everything works seamlessly and continuity, and you can work from one device to another. And honestly, I have nothing bad to say about Apple products. They're well made. They're a bit expensive, I'll give them that. But they always seem to work. And that's great if you love that. But the downside is they almost work too well. I mean, to the point where you want to use your device a bit more. So on this journey to digital minimalism, the first item I got rid of was my Apple Watch. This was because I was too connected to my smartphone. I was getting notifications and I was feeling phantom buzzing, so I decided to switch to an analog style watch, my Casio. And honestly, I have no regrets. I love just having the time on my wrist and that's it. Now, the next device I decided to get rid of was my MacBook. Now, I had a MacBook Pro from 2019 and it was starting to give out a little bit. My keyboard was having issues. I had the famous butterfly keyboard, which I did love, but it did have its issues. So I decided to change to the Mac Mini, thinking I would stay in the Apple ecosystem because that's what I was used to. But I got an Apple Mac Mini that had too low of RAM. Since I was going from a Pro device back to a base model device, it wasn't able to handle my basic tasks such as editing. I was super frustrated and I didn't want to upgrade the model and spend $1,500 on something that was just going to stay at my desktop. I would have loved to get a new MacBook Pro, but again, the prices were outrageous and I had to really think, is that something I really needed? Well, I did some inner reflection, and since I've been using a lot of older devices, for example, my BlackBerry, I decided why not go to a bit of an older computer, but a pretty high spec one at that. That's when I fell down the rabbit hole and joined the Lenovo ThinkPad cult. I say cult because if you have a ThinkPad, you're probably going to love it and you're going to want to discuss it with other ThinkPad users. And I got a Lenovo ThinkPad P52, an i7 8th generation, and 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is also upgradable to 128. I wanted to get a computer where I could upgrade or change out some parts so that way it could last a bit longer. And it also has my favorite, removable battery. So with that in mind, I decided to continue my journey. Another device I got rid of because I was no longer using and I just had lying around was my iPad. Honestly, since I've been using the Onyx Books Palma, this kind of replaced my iPad in every way. I use my Onyx Books Palma to read, to browse the internet, and have something that's easier on the eyes. Since I was no longer using the iPad, I just sold it off. But the last device that I found the hardest to leave the Apple ecosystem with was my iPhone. Now, honestly, I haven't been using my iPhone as a phone so much as a content creation device, as well as my emergency health applications and even banking applications. I just felt that it was more secure to have a smartphone with certain applications so that way I could use them easily. I can access most of the applications on my web browser, and I do that. But recently, when I was using the device, I found even for content production, I was using an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I honestly wasn't impressed with the content. I know I'm visually impaired, so I probably can't see how to modify the specs correctly or adapt the camera to have the best performance because I'm not a pro, and I don't think I need a pro device. So I decided to switch out my iPhone and get a Google Pixel 8. I opted not to get the Pro model because I didn't want to make the same mistake I had made with iPhone. And I just wanted a camera that takes good pictures and close-up videos. The iPhone Pro Max didn't perform very well for me, and I wasn't happy with the content production. Also, I was trying to make my iPhone more minimalist by using minimalist apps such as Blank or other minimalist applications. Most of these are just widgets that you have a free trial for, and then you have to pay a fee to have it monthly or one flat fee to buy it outright. These widgets, in theory, seem to look okay. I'm a low vision user, so these widgets really, they were black and white, so easy to see, but I have problems reading a lot. And since these widgets were text-based, I was having difficulty to see, even with the large text size, what exactly I was opening. And I do better with icons. So if I was able to customize these to have specific icons, it would have been more accessible for my use, but they didn't have this option. Plus, as somebody who's very addicted to smartphones, I found that the widget wasn't enough to block me from going to applications I didn't want to have access to. For example, I could easily swipe right and access my full app drawer with no issues. So in the end, I found that the Apple iPhone was not adapted to my smartphone addiction, so I decided to go back to Android. This is a big decision, but I've used Android before and I like that it's more customizable, especially for launchers and even the accessibility settings. To be able to modify precisely the size of the icons and the text that I need is game-changing, especially for someone who has a visual disability. Sometimes I might need larger icons and sometimes I might not. I need something that I can adapt easily, and Android provides that for me. So since I wanted to go back to using a Google Pixel, I made the decision this week to sell off my iPhone and switch to Pixel. I don't think I'll have any regrets. So all in all, it was quite a process to leave the Apple ecosystem. I'm completely out of it. I do have AirPods still, but I don't know if I'm going to keep those or not. I do like AirPods, and I find that they're quite easy for me to use with other devices, for example, my ThinkPad or even my Google Pixel. So I think I might keep those around a bit. But as far as devices such as iPhone, iPad, or MacBook, I'm done. I'm happy not to be paying for extra storage service. And even some applications I found that were charging a lot more on Apple than they are compared to using an Android. So I've actually made money in this process of switching out of the Apple ecosystem, so that's a positive benefit. I feel my mental health is better, having more control over my devices and being able to choose the devices I need for my disability as well as my content creation. If you're on a digital minimalism journey, please feel free to subscribe and check out my other videos. And thank you for watching. See you soon.